Hello, welcome to another Leicester Square Theatre podcast. My guest this week is Moran. Very exciting. Do go and support her Kickstarter for Raised by Wolves if you like that show and would like to see some more. She's doing okay with it, but every bit of help will help. Also, if you enjoy these podcasts, you can help us by coming along here to the Leicester Square Theatre to see them live. There's still some more to go every Monday in November. We've got some great guests coming up, including Sarah Pascoe, Sarah Millican, David Baddiel, and Lucy Porter. And a couple of extras that we haven't yet booked in. That's all very exciting. Go to leicestersquaretheatre.com and you can buy tickets to that. Also doing As It Occurs to Me. What's the date going to be in November? I think it's November the 13th. I'll just check that on the old... It's a Remembrance Sunday, says George. He seems upset that he's been forced to work on Remembrance Sunday.
I'm looking forward to getting a minute's room time.
Okay. So come to that. If you want, there's lots of tickets for that. So go to leicestersquaretheatre.com for both of those, and you can buy tickets, come along and support us live, and all your money gets channeled back into doing more stuff. So let's sit back and enjoy Caitlin Moran, As It Occurs to Me, Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast, whatever this is called. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, is it working? Good. Don't patronise me. Welcome to the Leicester Square Theatre. Please welcome a man who has just spent half an hour talking to a 125-year-old man, and that is true. It's Richard Herring. This one working? Is it working? That's good. Hello, welcome to the Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast. I was in Xanadu with Olivia Newton-John the other day. She had all those kind of that thing round her head that's cool. She called it Lollipops. I don't. That seems to be catching on. I've been doing one of my Kickstarter. I think you're going to hear a bit about Kickstarters tonight, but I've been doing one of my Kickstarter awards before you all came in, which was to have a half an hour interview with, if there's anyone who's really terrified of horrific puppets that look like they'll come alive, look away now. I've just done this is Ali. Don't go him like that. Hello, it's me, Ali. Look, see, he's like a real person. Can speak on his own, doesn't even need a microphone. No, I don't need a microphone, it's fine. I've got a lapel mic on. Oh, good. This is the ventriloquist dummy that Stuart Lee used to... There we read. And look, Stuart Lee modelled his hair on that in the 1990s. That's just a rub in. So I thought Ali, I might bring him in every week because he can. I think Ali can ask questions that I would be too ashamed to ask. So we'll see how that goes. But he's here for now, and he's from 1892. That's where when he was created. So that's exciting, isn't it? So anyway, look, we haven't got all that long with the first guest, not as long as usual. So I will crack straight on. So you back in the box? Oh, I don't want to go in the box. Well, you're in the box. So. It's my great-granddad made him, and then my granddad had him, and then passed it down to me. My great-granddad was a Methodist minister and used him to teach parables and stuff. I use him to make jokes about being wanked up, like to reveal true life stories. So anyway, my guest tonight is probably best known from being a guest on Pagina 2, or Pagina 2, I don't know how you pronounce it. It's like vagina with a P. But she was also on Sunday Brunch in 2012. That's probably where you'll recognise her from. Will you please welcome Caitlin Moran, ladies and gentlemen? Caitlin Moran. Beautiful. Thank you very much. I hope you don't mind this box of Victorian toys between us.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see it now. I've heard the build-up.
There's two, actually, so I can show. That's Ali.
Oh, Christ. Actually, I've been in a similar situation. I once spent an hour and a half trying to interview Marky Smith from The Fall, and it wasn't entirely visually dissimilar.
This is Sally, who I think is actually more scary.
I mean, I did look a lot like that when I was 18, to be fair. That was very much the hairstyle I had.
Like, a lot of her teeth have come out. I just noticed today when I was talking to her today. I think that's my fault. I was meant to look after these, and my granddad gave them to me. But they are very old. They're very old. There's some newspaper, and this is some newspaper that was inside them. That's from 1892.
I hope it just says war. I just presume all old newspapers say war declared. That's.
I think I don't know if there was the Boer War was
what
around.
is this? I know it's got a little list of things that you can buy. Apparently, they had a special on chlorate of potash. That was 1 shilling. Seems quite reasonable. I don't know what potash is now. Borax, soda bicarb, soda mint. This is good shit, man. I'm like, this is my new shopping list.
Fantastic. What was Pagina or Pagina 2? Do you remember being on that?
I don't know.
I think it was like a talk show in Spain or something.
Christ, I don't remember that at all. I remember doing a talk show that was feminism in the early 90s, and it was me, Germaine Greer, Suzanne Moore, and Miranda Sawyer.
Right.
And we were all around a riding table. And because it was about feminism, it might as well have been called Vagina 2. and there was a bottle in the centre of the table, and it was the days when you could smoke fags as well, so I was immediately tabbing away because I was very nervous and 18. And everybody was pouring themselves drinks from this decanter, and I'd never come across sherry before. I just thought you could drink it like wine, so I was drinking like half pints of sherry, knocking it back like a beast, and smoking fags at the same time. And all the way through I was the only one who's smoking, and towards the end everybody started talking about their mothers and got really emotional, and as they started talking about their mothers, you saw every single woman's hand shoot to the centre of the table, take fags out of my packet, and everyone just started smoking again. My bloody mother, my bloody mother. And that's feminism.
That's what it's the mothers that make you feminist. That's what happens.
Absolutely,
That's
yes.
as is my understanding of feminism.
Richard, could you take your box off the table?
Why?
It's obscuring the view, apparently.
Okay.
The amount of times I've been told to take my box off the table. There's so many dinner parties.
How's that? Is that all right for you? Is that obscure? Is it like is it the crotch shot that we that you're worried about? Good. Yeah, it's great to have you. Well, we'll talk about the Kickstarter straight away because you're kickstarting Raised by Wolves, which is you did 2 series on Channel 4 of your sitcom, and basically sort of about your family, I would imagine, fairly strongly, although set in the present day.
Yeah. So I was the eldest of 8 children. We were home educated in a council house in Wolverhampton by parents who believed that the apocalypse was going to happen quite soon. And when you live through it, it's quite traumatic. But 20 years later, you think I could make a show out of this. So I wrote the show with my sister. It went very well. We won lots of awards and stuff. And then, as is often the way of things, it wasn't refreshed. I think is the option wasn't refreshed for a 3rd season. So we sort of announced it on Twitter and kind of went, oh, well, that's it off. I've been working on this idea of doing a musical about the life of Bill Murray for like the last 5 years. So I was like, great, just don't need to write the sitcom anymore. Time for the Bill Murray musical, which I can tell you literally tell you scene by scene about the whole thing. If anybody wants it, it's called Billenium, okay? And the idea is, when they were going to have the Millennium Bug and they didn't know what was going to happen, but they thought it was going to be awful. So we joined Bill Murray on the evening, New Year's Eve, 1999. We don't know what's going to happen with the Millennium Bug. And it gets to midnight and nothing seems to be happening. He's just in the bathroom looking in the mirror, kind of, hey, well, nothing happened there. But obviously he'll improvise something funnier, because that's the great thing about working with Bill Murray. You don't have to write a script, he just does it himself. And then he goes back out into the party and looks around the room and, oh my God, everyone in the world has turned into Bill Murray. This is what the Millennium Bug is. I haven't really got much further than that, but I just like the idea of a world filled with Bill Murrays, and we've got to make it soon because he's going to die. So I was like, I can get on with that. But
you don't know anything specifically that's going to kill him.
He seems fairly healthy and hale. But at some point, Father Time will call him back to his breast. So I was like, I'll work on Billenium instead. But then we sort of talked about it on Twitter, and loads of people were going, no, it's 2016. Loads of people love your show. Why don't you crowdfund it? So we went, okay, let's do a Kickstarter. Let's crowdfund it. Oh my God, it's knackering doing a crowdfunder, isn't it? It is.
It's very well. It's like, as we were saying backstage. I've done a few and not quite as ambitious as yours. So I did one for Me One versus Me Two snooker, which was more ambitious. Where I tried to raise £1 million to play myself at snooker in my basement. I got to 106,000. But I think the people who were donating £5,000 knew their money was quite safe. So they, and some of them are like Andy McCage, I think. They put £5,000 in and then got a call from the fraud squad because they still checked you've got the funds in your account and thought you were trying to, which is quite good, isn't it? Yeah, you got your card stopped, so that the joke was on you. But yeah, so it's quite an ambitious target. But I think you'll make it because I think looking at the shape of it. But it's annoying because people in the middle, they stop doing it.
Yes.
And then why don't they just give you the money now and stop you so you're not having a heart attack for a month?
I know, it does make you turn into a really unpleasant person.
Yeah.
You are essentially asking people for money, and when they don't, you get angry, and that's an unreasonable response from a very weak human being. But you know, the idea is if people want us to make more, then if you pay us up front rather than buying the DVD at the end, we'll make more. If not, Millennium is go. Like kind of.
Well, now you've made that sound so good. People are going to start taking their money out and putting it into...
Well, so long as people understand Millennium so far, I've only got the first 7 minutes. After that, I would have to crowdfund ideas. But it's a strong 7-minute opener.
Well, but it shows how much TV costs. So, like,
Yeah.
350 grand is sort of about how much a regular TV show
It is
costs.
extraordinary how much TV costs, and then you realise when you go onto the set of something, like when we were filming ours, that like kind of it is like a small army of people. You are employing a small village, and they are also incredible people. Whenever I used to watch people doing kind of acceptance speeches when they'd won awards, and they were going, "Of course, it's the cast and crew. You're like family. You guys make miracles happen every day." And you're like, "I don't think they did." Like kind of, I think they just did some catering. Kind of, you're really over egging that. But when you've been on the set of a TV show, I mean, you hear the stories from the production people and the runners. Like, you know, when you get production assistant just talking about how they were filming in mountains in Transylvania and had to get gluten-free muffins for Tom Cruise and plus smuggle his dog into the country. You think, my God, if they put a production manager in charge of any war or conflict in the world, they could sort the whole thing out in 20 minutes flat. Like, these are super organised people.
Yeah.
So those are the people that we want to employ. And plus, you know, I basically won my career in a competition. I entered the Observer Young Reporter of the Year competition when I was 15. Because if you live on a council estate in Wolverhampton, it doesn't occur to you that you could come to London and have these exciting jobs. So you kind of need to be invited. So we're doing these paid internships so that people can come and work on the show in production. We're going to do writing workshops so that people who come from a similar background as us can have a hand sort of put out to them and go, come and join us. This could be fun.
Yeah.
Come and do two series for a major broadcaster and then have to kickstart it for the third. That's the kind of job I want to invite you to.
I mean, there's lots of interesting things about this. I mean, that the series was cancelled and then you won the Palme d'Or.
Yes, I know.
Which just be quite satisfying.
I know. Oh, it did. Yes, it was very
it's a
satisfying.
big deal, and TV. The broadcasters have to make decisions, and they've got to bring in new shows, and there's all sorts of things to consider.
Yeah. Well, you have to be noble. I mean, it's like being dumped, basically.
Yeah.
You can't like turn up at Channel 4's doorstep and just cry through their letterbox drunk in your underwear, going, "Take me back! Why did you drop me?" Because after the first 2 days, they do move you on.
Yeah.
That is inadvisable.
It's hard to get more than two. For a long time, I never had more than two series of anything. I've got on. This is the 10th series of this, but only because I decide whether it comes back again. And up to an extent, in terms of if you don't turn up, I probably would stop it. If there was literally no one here and no guest, I probably wouldn't do it.
Would you though?
But though, having said that, I did just talk to a ventriloquist dummy for half an hour on my own. So who knows what would happen? But I mean, I think what's quite interesting about TV sitcoms is that they're bringing in lots of people from different areas that don't usually write sitcoms, I think. And a lot of them are women. So
Yes.
there's Fleabag and there's
I love that. Isn't
Chewing
that
Gum.
amazing? Yes.
And they've both come through a sort of theatrical background.
Yes.
And you've come to writing sitcom through like a
journalism and just generally being around and having a huge face. Yeah, no. Well,
Well,
this is the great thing. It's funny because I mean, you know, as a feminist and and someone who writes about politics a lot, you spend a lot of your time talking about diversity, and diversity sounds like an incredibly boring word. But the whole thing about diversity, it's not like a noble luxury that we can sort of indulge in if we feel like we're doing everything else. It's just more business. It's just more stories. It's just more fun.
Yeah.
You just don't want to hear the same stories over and over again. I can't be the only one who sits watching most TV and you can kind of guess what's going to happen next.
Sure.
So that's the whole idea about having people from, and also people who've never written before, come up with crazy ideas.
Yeah.
Like kind of the amount of times that we made people very terrified when we were making Raised by Wolves. For instance, in one episode, Jermaine, the 16-year-old who is overweight and sex obsessed and bumptious and joyful, reacts to the death of her grandmother by deciding that she will discover masturbation and basically wank away the pain. And we decided that she would be doing this when in the TV in the corner of the room question time was on. And because that music gets kind of ding 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 ding. I mean it builds. It's kind of, it is call it a masturbatory aid. And so we joyfully write this scene, and then the producers go, yeah, but you're going to have to get permission from Jonathan Dimbleby because it will end on a close-up of his face, and we can't. That's just wrong. He will have to get his permission. So I sort of know his son vaguely through Twitter, so I just had to send him a letter to give to his dad. I said, can you give this letter to your dad? Which said, this is a bit weird, but we've written a sitcom where a 16-year-old girl wanks to the Question Time theme tune and it ends on your face. And 2 days later he just sent me this back going, oh, that's absolutely delightful. Absolutely, of course. would be wonderful. And similarly, we had it's a family that is obsessed with cheap food because that's what you're obsessed with. When you're poor, it's one of your few joys. And so they eat a lot of cheese, and they've come up with a song called "Cheese on Cheese," which is where they've repurposed "Girls on Film" by Duran Duran. So the lyrics now aren't about sexy models, but it's about cheese on cheese. I'm making a sandwich, cheese on cheese, with cheddar and Leicester. Because it's a cheese on cheese sandwich. It's cheese and then cheese and then cheese. There's no bread. It's just pure cheese. And again, they were like, this is a great song. We're all singing it in the office. But you will have to get permission from Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran to do this. And again, luckily I know him through Twitter, so I was like, hello, Simon, this is a bit of a weird thing, but can we take your song about sexy ladies and make it about very cheap cheese? To which he replied, yes, that's brilliant. Hey, up the Midlands, hurrah and hooray. It was very jolly and not new romantic-y about the whole thing.
That's good. Yeah. But it's sort of interesting, I think, to see... Well, it's exactly that. It's because I think in the past... I think sitcoms, a lot of sitcoms that get commissioned are that very formulaic thing.
Yes.
And they're written
things happened in the hall.
And they're written by the same kind of people.
Yes.
So I think it's very exciting that I think you've made this point, but certainly in America, so much of the new comedy stuff is being written by women that it's almost like, where are the men now?
I know. I feel sorry of men.
Yeah.
Kind of like, yeah. But it's amazing how many of them are working with Judd Apatow as well. I presume that he just stands by the toilets, the ladies' toilets of the Golden Globes, and just anyone who's going in, like, want to make a film with me? He's kind of like, he gets Schumer, he gets Faye, everyone.
No, so it's very interesting. I think the other two that have come from a theatrical background, they're really, they're standout, amazing, just so different.
Yes,
Fleabag's
Fleabag's
great, but this is as well because it's aside from Mrs. Brown's Boys, which I'm not sure is that accurate a portrayal of working class life.
At times.
At times it is.
I did find my dad in a dress in the front room, but talking in an Irish accent. But that was just simply a good night in the pub.
Yeah, but there aren't many sitcoms about your family is a very unusual family from Wolverhampton, but it's that working class thing, and they're not trying to scam the state and
not
steal
being
things. They're just they're normal people.
Well, this is the thing, kind of like sort of the depiction of the working classes is generally around them being kind of almost like kind of dangerous, kind of exciting animals, and they're always just having sex in an alleyway or dealing drugs or setting fire to cars or kind of like saying things in slightly impenetrable slang. And it's like there's a bit more to being working class than that. But first of all, we've forgotten about the aspirational working classes, that post-war thing of educating yourself. You go to the library, you take care of things, you have conversations about culture, you're engaged. This is one of the problems that I had with Benefit Street. It was all just about survival.
Yeah.
And yes, when you're very poor, that is a key thing. That's that's the plots of your days, trying to work out how you're going to get. For instance, your washing machine breaks down, you can't mend it. You've got a cousin who's got a spare washing machine, but they're on the other side of town, and you've got to work how you're going to bring a washing machine from Cannock to Wolverhampton on a bus. Like, kind of that's, it's practical, everyday things that you're having to do. But at the same time, things like Benefit Streets, you never see people talking about anything other than survival. It's almost like you're reduced to a body, you're reduced to a problem. No one's allowed to be silly or surreal or fanciful or whimsical. So, that was very much what we wanted to put in there. So, there are intellectual, bohemian, working class people. It's kind of it,
And they're really excellent characters. The mother character's amazing. So it's this, attempting to, there's 6 kids, are there, in the fictional family?
We were never sure. At one point, we wanted all the children to be played by puppets instead. We were just like, they should just be a mass. That's what little children are like, just little Muppets.
They're just called the Babbies in the titles, which I like. But it's a great portrayal of someone they've got to get on with their life. They've got this impossible life.
Yes.
Because they're a single parent with 6 kids, and she's getting on with it, and there's just a great focus to that character. It's an amazing character.
We'd written her very differently, and then this is where you start realising actors are kind of amazing, because we'd written her as quite uptight with kind of GHD'd head and stuff, and kind of very particular about how her cushions were arranged on the sofa. And Rebecca Staten turned up, and she went, I don't want to name drop, but I do. I've just come off set with Clint Eastwood, and I want to play this mother like Clint Eastwood. I want to play her like the lone cowboy in town, kind of like a superhero, just kind of a preacher man. And we were like, yeah, that is what single mothers are. You are a freaking superhero. And, so then we wrote her like Ripley from Alien, she's very Sarah Connor in Terminator, but on a council estate. And that is basically, and I found it was amazing writing a character like that, because she didn't inspire us to write her like that, because I now parent like this fictional mother that I wrote. It's kind of, to the point where my children get very annoyed.
There's an element of that with it, however many kids you've got and however easy your life is as a parent, there is this, it becomes about your family's your focus, and you just have to get on with it. Your life has changed irreversibly.
And
there's
for the worse in
there's
many ways, yeah.
There's no
But I mean, part of the joy of that is kind of, you're kind of this feeling that you can't, I mean, if you like being funny and that's your way of getting through life, kind of, the thing that Della can just do these brilliant speeches, you just get to rant, kind of like, okay, you're going to have to do some parenting at some point, but before you do, you're going to let the kids know how much you resent it. And I really enjoy writing those speeches. They are from the heart.
And then I think what's most interesting about it is you write with your sister Caroline,
yes,
and the two central characters are clearly very much based on you.
On us, yes.
And they're quite different people, so it must be very hard for those two people to write a sitcom together, even if they weren't sisters, but they're very different. Well,
for those who haven't seen it, the two main characters, there's one overweight brunette who's very confident, very extrovert, never stops fucking talking, is obsessed with Benedict Cumberbatch and wanking. And then there's another character who's a ginger, introvert, uptight, Marxist, obsessed with George Orwell, who hates the brunette. And I'll leave you to guess which one is me and which one is my sister. But it was, it was very interesting writing together. Kind of, when we first started coming up with the characters, I was like, I think Jermaine should be this kind of like, she's bumptious and she's sepsis, but I think she should be noble. I think maybe she should be talking about politics. She should be this kind of great guy, like really inspiring and noble and incredible, and just really inspiring and noble and really great. And my sister just went, yeah, or she could be a dick. And we argued about that for many hours, and many, many times I would just find myself shouting, I'm going to tell Mum about this, but that doesn't really cut it in a writing partnership, and Jermaine just ended up being a dick. Whereas the ginger one continues to be really noble, have much better plots, and much better hair, so I sort of, you can see the power struggle is acted out on screen, definitely.
But again, I think any well-written family sitcom is going to be great because we all have that relationship with people in our family, however it is, however different the families are.
Yes.
So that's an instantly recognisable, competition between the two oldest kids.
Well, it's the perfect cage, isn't it? I mean, you are all stuck together, and again, particularly if there's a lot of children, you're very poor and you're in a very small house, that you literally can't go away from each other. And there's this weird thing, kind of, you only get it in sibling relationships where you sometimes really want a sibling to punch you. You will just keep going up into a child, just into a sibling's face and just touching it and just touching it. My sister used to do this thing that would drive me crazy, where she would go, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Yeah, but I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. And you'd be going, Mom, Mom, Mom. She'd go, I'm not actually touching you, though. Look, I'm not touching you for 2 hours. And she wanted me to punch her. And sometimes you just want to wrestle with a sibling. Sometimes you would... And, we didn't have television in those days, and the internet hadn't been invented, so we invented many games. And also we were home educated, so we were quite stupid in many ways. So for some reason we thought that your vagina was called your navel. And so when Sarah Ferguson married Prince Andrew, who was described as a naval officer, we just were we still haven't really recovered from that. And because we often had to share beds, we would do a game called naveling, where you'd be top to tail in a bed and you just try and put your foot up your sister's vagina. You'd just go, and if you did it, you'd go navel, 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 and that's what people did before the internet. That was a great day.
Well, it's very enjoyable. I watched the first time.
Naveling? Have you done it too?
I know, yeah, it is. Yeah, well, that's anything. When you get to my age, anything. It's the hardest part of me, my foot, so that's fine. But it's. But it's. I hope you. I think you will be successful with this thing. But you're gonna. I think the thing that I did that has made the last two work.
Yes.
Is just you've got to be so persistent about it and just keep on going on and on about it to the point that I'm sure I've lost thousands of followers and fans and stuff from other stuff.
And what proportion of people do you need to sleep with who are funding it? Because I'm averaging around about 17% at the moment, but like
my wife wouldn't let me sleep with any of them. I was prepared to do that for £1. But I'd give you the pound. I think, but it's interesting because you look at it and you think, oh, it's a huge amount of money. But then I think, but you look, but actually, it's sort of 50,000 people giving £30. It gives you like about £1.5 million. So
well, we had 1 million viewers, so it's just kind of they all give us a quid. But like kind of, aside from the fact that I would like to keep making the show, like first of all, if it works in this country, which it hasn't done before, it would mean that no show needs to die. Like so long as there's a fan base there who still want to make that show, even if a broadcaster takes it off, the fans can get together and go, no, we want to continue making this. The writer and the cast are still there. We want to get the band back together now, which and I've got a list of things that I would bring back and want to kickstart. start. So, so that's the first thing about it. And secondly, again, if it works, that's just a template that anybody else can take and work with. And I will come around to give you all advice about the best way to do this. I can tell you all the mistakes that we've made. But it's just a really interesting way around of doing it. That instead of having to wait for someone to believe in you, you could just make a thing happen. And that's magic. That's what you should be using the internet for, rather than just dick pics. So I've stopped doing dick pics. And now I'm all about the altruism.
But it's sort of, I mean, I got it with my ones, which were more modest than yours. People going, well, why don't you pay for yourself? I put my Kickstarter things this year have been £170,000, and I'm not doing badly at my job. But if I paid £170,000 to do some work that I'm not getting paid for, I'd be in quite a lot of trouble. So but it is literally just the other way around. So I said to someone who said that, I said, but you go to see a millionaire comedian and they charge you £50 a ticket, you don't go, well, you've got loads of money, why are you charging £50 a ticket?
Yeah.
You would happily do that. So it's just getting the money in advance so the thing can be made. And if you don't want it to happen, it doesn't happen.
Well, yeah,
so
it does seem weird that you're just having to explain this really basic thing that humans have always done. It's like, it's not begging. It's like, if you want the thing, then pay us to make a thing.
Yeah.
Like, as you do with everything else. Like, it's we're not spending it on guns. It's kind of, it's literally, if you want us to keep making the show that you like. And if you don't, that's great, because then we don't have to. And I can get on with Millennium. Like, kind of,
Well, I felt like that as it occurs to me. I thought, no, I'd never make £100,000 for that, and that'd be fine. I could say I was going to do it and then didn't have to do it. Now I've got to do it, and it's quite annoying, I have to say. It's taken up a lot of my time.
You're being very brave about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I've got some new emergency questions.
Excellent.
I'm going to ask you this one that's nearly new.
Is one of the questions, can you put your entire hand into your mouth, Catelyn?
I can ask that. Can you put your entire hand into your mouth?
That's a weird question to ask. Why don't you ask me that? Yes, I can. Hang on.
Oh, wow. In a way, I wish you hadn't been able to do it. That would have been an even weirder question. No, I can't, no. I'd love to see something. That was amazing.
Thank you.
If you had to do a human centipede with two other people, if you had to, but you could choose the two other people, and you're in the middle.
That was going to be my question, because then, so it's, I need someone that I like pooing into my mouth, and then someone I hate strapped to my arse.
Exactly, you've got it. Everyone else hasn't really got this.
Okay, whose shit would be delicious is basically what you're asking me. Who do I think has a brilliant diet? Well, I mean, judging by the last series of Nigella, she's eating a very lovely, healthy diet now. Her bottom would be a pleasure to have your nose rammed into.
Yeah.
I think I would absolutely, I can happily sew my lips to Nigella Nelson's anus.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be in front.
Okay.
And then who would I shit into the mouth of?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I feel that he shits into my mouth culturally, so it would probably be Simon Cowell.
Okay.
And that is a cheap gag, but I really mean it from the heart. He's the only person I regularly attack in print. Anyone else, no. But I just think with his £7 Mr. Topper's haircut and the palpable air of only having 7 CDs in his collection, 2 of which are the best of Robson and Jerome, and his wholesale stealing of the concept of music being on television, and the idea that being the karaoke Sauron and us just being trapped in his tiny record collection forever genuinely gives me boils in my soul. So yes, I'll shit into his mouth. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
That's all right.
Thank you.
I think he would probably die first as well. So for a while you'd be dragging his dead body around. But then you would die. But then Nigella Lawson, I think, would survive.
I think she'll live forever. She's never going to die, is she,
No.
Nigella? That would be gutting. No.
But it's all right for her. I mean, it's all right for the person at the front.
Yeah,
It's slight, mildly inconvenient.
Well, I guess also she's the only one that can talk, and she's got a very soothing conversational tone, and she knows an enormous amount about literature, so she could just basically read aloud to us while the rest of us just munch on shit.
And that would annoy Simon Cowell, wouldn't it?
Oh, he'd hate it. Yes. Don't talk about Dante. Go. Yes.
Good. But you have sort of cursed her to. It's sort of like she is being punished, so you sort of slightly punished her, but she would.
Well, I mean, we all hurt the people we love, don't we? That's what I've learned from the human centipede.
That's fine.
I once did a photo shoot with her where she had to dress up as me and I had to dress up as her.
Oh, right.
And I can tell any woman in the audience that's an incredibly depressing experience, because Nigella was the most beautiful me I've ever seen in my life. Like, Nigella is me, she was wearing Doc Martens, sort of like tights, little cut-off shorts and stuff, and she looked insanely hot. I looked at her and just went, God, Catelyn Moran could be beautiful, were she constantly played by Nigella Lawson. And then I just had to be this kind of dog in a dress Nigella Lawson, and I was just very bad at being Nigella Lawson. So don't, if you get that opportunity, don't. Just be sewn to her instead in a human centipede. That's definitely. preferable.
This is a question my wife suggested. Well, if you dropped your phone down the Portaloo on Glastonbury on the third day, would you retrieve the toilet? Would you retrieve the phone, or would you leave it in the? Now, I think my wife imagined that Glastonbury toilets are, you can just reach in and grab it, but actually it's a pretty much a sewer under there, isn't it?
I mean,
but she was with someone who did this and who did retrieve their phone.
Really?
Yeah.
And did it work?
I didn't get that. I can't imagine it did. And even if it did, do you want to hold that to your face?
Yeah. I mean, my prosaic, non-funny 41-year-old answer is it's all backed up to the cloud, and I have an insurance thing. Of course not. But my amusing anecdote answer would be that one of the most noble things I've ever seen a celebrity do was we camp in the backstage Winnebago area at Glastonbury because we're wankers. And one year in the absolute pissing rain, we noticed that four vans down from us, Mark Owen from Take That was in the van. And with a couple of friends and his heavily pregnant wife. And we sort of watched him coming and going, and he just had a very pleasant demeanour anyway. And then on the last day, when you hire the Winnebagos, you have to empty the toilet cassette out. I don't know if you've sort of been in those caravans. We have to sort of pull out a big kind of cassette of poo and go and empty it down a toilet somewhere else. And on the last day of Glastonbury, in the rain, I watched Mark Owen from Take That just take the huge cassette of poo out of his caravan, volunteering himself willingly and cheerfully, and emptying out the collective shit of everyone who'd stayed in his van into the public toilets around the corner. And I was like, you don't need to do that. You're Mark Owen from Take That. Surely with your incredible wealth and fame, you could just go like this and have someone come over and remove the poo for you. But he emptied his poo himself. So given that he's so at home with poo at Glastonbury, I'd probably ask Mark to maybe retrieve the phone for me. Like kind of.
I think that's how he got in to Take That. He was prepared to do that for the other. So you can be in the van as long as you... We're all going to poo in a little bucket, and you have to get rid of it at the end of the week. Are you happy with that, Mark? Yeah, that'd be all right.
Yeah, all right. I would imagine Gary Barlow does extraordinary poos. Yeah. I used to play this game with my husband where we tried to imagine the kind of poos that celebrities would do. Like, he was convinced that Prince would go behind the sofa like a cat and kind of emit pellets. He'd kind of scratch, and they just emit a lot of pellets.
Yeah.
Whereas I think we presumed from her vocal style that Heather Smalls from M People, it would just be like, bah, bah.
Oh. I wanted to look. Have you seen your YouGov, the YouGov page of your fans?
God, no. What YouGov?
There's a YouGov page, and it tells you what your fans are like. The typical Caitlin Moran fan and what they're different from... Oh, hold on.
I reckon I can guess. I reckon they're mainly fruity women who wear eyeliner, left-leaning, obsessed with Cumberbatch, and probably talk more about George Orwell than they've read of him, because that's essentially
I can show you a picture of exactly who they are. It's not so much fun for anyone else, but it's fun for you.
Is it literally a picture of... What?
This is your fan.
I'm bamboozled by technology. Are you literally showing me everyone who likes me?
They're readers of Caitlin Moran. That's what they look like. They look like that.
Wow! It appears to be Janice from Friends. They've got they've got an average picture of mine. Nice.
They like eating hummus, which might. That used to be what my fans like, but they've moved on to. My fans have moved on to something else. They're quite left-wing, not as left-wing as my fans. They come from London, the north east, and Wales.
All right, it's not a competition.
They've got a monthly spare of £1,000 or more, as have my fans. Which
spare?
Yeah, they've got £1,000 spare. So
they could donate that to a Kickstarter.
They could, and they should.
Kickstarter / Raised by Wolves.
Yeah, they're like. I'll tell you, the food they like is hummus, chicken katsu curry second, and butternut squash risotto third. So if you turn up at your gigs with that stuff, they'll be... Their favourite sport is athletics 100 metres, which seems very specific.
I mean, if they have the same build and feeling towards sports as I do, you're not saying how long it takes them to do that. And I noticed that they've chosen the shortest run, which is definitely what I would do. Which you can just amble along doing while smoking.
And in entertainment, let's see if they like Benedict Cumberbatch. In entertainment, they like... their favourite musical artist is John Cooper Clarke, which is an odd choice.
Really?
And the Flaming
I doubt
Lips.
this algorithm.
And their favourite TV show is The Great British Bake Off.
Not my fucking show.
And no.
What? How much do they actually like me?
No.
Well,
they like you on. They follow you on Twitter. That must be a relief.
Thanks, guys.
They like Bjork, Arcade Fire, and Joy Division's Facebook pages.
That is fair enough. Yeah.
And lyricsmania.com is their favourite website. So that's I would just like you to know about that.
That's amazingly specific. I love it.
I believe it works on an algorithm which shows what they like that other people don't like, so it's not actually what their favourite thing is, it's just the thing that makes them different.
Most different.
Yeah, from
what
other
did your fan look like? Mine looks like Janice
Mine
from
looks
Friends.
like
Is
Andrew
your-
Collins.
Really?
Yeah. And it's changed since I last... The thing is, that's the depressing thing about getting old.
Is it actually Andrew Collins?
It might be. It could well be my only... not sure he's that much of a fan of mine anymore.
I quite like the idea of him setting up a proxy website that diverts everyone from YouGov to his own website to make you scared that he's your only fan.
Yeah. Oh, it's taking too long to load up.
No.
But he's got a little satchel like Andrew, and looks a bit like. And he's a middle-aged man now. But look at the rich diversity of bearded men that like me.
Have you started to get to that thing now where you can't tell if someone young is good looking or just that they're young? Like, to me now, anybody like...
I refuse to answer this question on the grounds that it may incriminate me.
To me, anyone under the age of 35 just looks astonishingly beautiful. Like, they're lit from within like a stained glass window in a medieval cathedral. It's just like... They don't know about knee hurt. They don't know about unspecified lung stab. They've never done that thing where you kind of pleat the skin on your hand, your arm, and it doesn't go back. They haven't got a wattle yet. I started to get a wattle, and there's that really famous Nora Ephron piece about I feel bad about my neck. And so I sort of stood there in the window, just sort of in the mirror, just looking at my wattle, thinking, do I feel bad about this? Maybe I should feel... Nora Ephron felt bad about this. I should feel bad about this. But I've decided I quite like it. Right. It's like, if you look at it, it's not unlike having a pair of knackers on your neck. They're just kind of... You just sort of wobble them backwards and forwards. I quite like it.
The nice thing about being a man is you can grow... Which a woman could do, but not in the society we live in. You can grow a beard to cover a lot of the... I've just shaved off my beard today, so...
You've not got a wattle.
Well, it's kind of... There's some excess stuff under there that doesn't belong there.
Packing for the future.
It is. I would like to hear about how you nearly broke into Kate Moss's house.
Ah, yes.
Because I found you talking about that, and then I haven't found when it happened.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that'll be because it's on the Times website behind the paywall. Yes. This is.
I refuse to pay.
There's such good, sweet stuff behind that paywall written by me, and no one knows about it, which is great because it means I get to tell the anecdotes twice. I went to. You may have guessed from the conversation. I quite like Benedict Cumberbatch, I've had an embarrassing history with him because I got the advanced DVDs of Sherlock a couple of weeks before everyone else when I was still a TV critic. So on the night it first went out, I sort of popped onto Twitter and went, there's this new show called Sherlock coming. Ladies in particular, I think you're going to enjoy this show. 9:00, I'll see you there. And then the show started, I had a couple of glasses of wine, and there was the first close-up, and I was like, this really is quality drama, as I stared at his beautiful face. And then there was the sort of second close-up 10 minutes later, by which point I'd had another glass of wine, and I was like, look at that sweet, sweet face, made of marble, looks like a meerkat. He's beautiful. And then by the time there was his third close-up, half an hour in, I'd had most of the bottle of wine, and I just typed, oh my God, Benedict Cumberbatch, he could make my face look like a painter and decorator's radio. Press send. Unbeknownst to me, the entire cast and crew of Sherlock had gathered at the writer Stephen Moffat's house, and Stephen follows me on Twitter, and at the beginning was kind of going, oh look, Catherine's tweeting about Sherlock, look, she's saying very supportive things about it being a quality drama. Oh look, Benedict, that's quite funny, she's saying something about your face being beautiful and made of marble. Oh. So I didn't know about all this. So then a couple of weeks later, they sent me to interview Benedict Cumberbatch. And it was around about the time, because there's always a backlash against someone. So he'd been very successful, then there was this big backlash against him for being posh. Everyone was like, he's posh, fuck him, he's posh, he's too posh, we hate him, he's posh. And he'd sent me this email just sort of going, I feel really bad about this. And I was like, how dare they say things like this about you, sweet prince? I will defend you. You're not that posh. And I was supposed to be interviewing at his parents' house in the countryside, so I've got the train, I'm in a taxi, and sort of all the time I'm texting him, he's going, I'm still worried about them calling me posh, and I'm like, fuck them, you're not posh. And the taxi pulls up outside his parents' house, and it's a fucking castle. It's like... It's got huge gates that you have to open, and as you walk up the beautiful, crunchy gravel driveway, there's a silver Jaguar, a London taxi cab, and a third sports car of a type that I don't recognise because I'm a woman, and it's just like, bloody hell. So I go to the front door, and because I'm meeting his parents and I'm essentially courting Benedict Cumberbatch now, I want to impress his parents. I've got a bunch of flowers for his mum and a bottle of wine for his dad. I'm kind of sort of knocking on the door, hello, hello, but the house is so big no one can hear me. Clearly all the maids are in the West Wing. So sort of through the letterbox again, hello, I've come to interview in the countryside, hello, could you let me in? There's nothing. So I start walking around the house trying to find if there's another access point, past the swimming pool, past this incredible sort of ballroom, all the time going, bloody hell, this is an incredible house. And I just can't find any way in. And in the end, I'm going to have to go into the village and ask a local peasant how you get into Castle Cumberbatch. I cannot penetrate its solid walls. I need a trebuchet. And so I walk towards the nearest hovel in order to ask them how to get into the castle. And there's a man standing outside the hovel. And I realise that the man outside the hovel is Benedict Cumberbatch. At which point he goes, Catelyn, I've just been watching you for the last 20 minutes. Why have you been trying to break into Kate Moss's house? She lives next door. So unfortunately we did not wed. It all went quite badly after that.
Well, it's good. I'm just, you know, he had the offer, didn't he? He could have taken it up.
Yeah.
So that's.
I think I'd sold myself very well as a bride at that point. You know? I'd shown that I wasn't the kind of person who could break into a castle. Surely that's an attribute you want in a bride. Do you find that being successful, as you are, has that had an effect on the way people perceive you? Because it's sort of like it's interesting, I think, as people come through, like you're super cool, you break through, and then you have a backlash.
Yeah, then you become successful, and then people, and I think especially when you're writing about stuff like feminism, that people are very competitive about being the best feminist. About being the best at being equal to everyone.
No, totally. But being women, you can take them down quite easily. It's just a simple fight or with hair pulling. Well, I guess, I don't know, I'm a lover, not a fighter, so kind of like sort of, you know, whenever there was a scuffle like that, I just wanted to make jokes about it, like kind of, that's the great thing about not being an academic feminist, you know, kind of ultimately, as much as I believe in feminism and equality and all these things, if it was funnier to make a joke saying that I didn't believe in it, I would. Yeah. That's kind of, I'm comedy is my mistress. I think the main thing has been coming from, although it's hard to believe given that I essentially have a Victoria Coren's voice, I do come from Wolverhampton and a working class background, and the main thing that you see people saying is kind of like, surely you're now middle class. Like kind of, you can't say you're working class anymore, you must be middle class. You have a silly voice and you live in a big house. And I hate the logic of that because it means that if as soon as a working class person becomes successful and earns any money, they get co-opted and stolen by the middle classes, which means that the only sort of defining appellations that you can put on the working classes is that they're non-successful and don't have a voice. And I don't believe that. And I also believe that culturally, there are differences between the middle classes and the working classes. As soon as anyone working class makes money, they employ everyone they know. You know, they always pay the bill for everyone because they know what it's like to sit around a dinner table and know that you might not be able to pay the bill. You know, they share things. They kind of. It was interesting recently. I was finding that Radiohead and Kasabian are into exactly the same music. So Kasabian are sort of working class band from Leicester, Radiohead a middle class band from Oxford. I love both intensely and dearly, but this seemed to absolutely typify the difference between the working classes and the middle classes. That, Radiohead into sort of prog rock and Fortet and all the same stuff, and so are Kasabian. But whereas Radiohead kind of make these impenetrable things and kind of have this kind of, sort of don't really talk to the audience, and they're kind of like, we build an impressive thing that's to scare you and to make you cry. Whereas Kasabian take exactly the same music and they're like, oh! And there was a quote from Serge from Kasabian who'd been to see Radiohead, and he was just like, there were no birds on blokes' shoulders. That's a shit gig. I wouldn't want to be in a band where birds didn't get on blokes' shoulders. And I was like, that's exactly it. They want to share it and make it joyful, they're not... Because it's the difference between the physical spaces you live in. If you're working class, you have a space straight out on... There's no garden. You just walk straight out on the street and you share your music with everyone. You can hear everybody. You all sort of share whatever resources you've got. Yeah. Whereas if you're middle class, you have a fence and a garden and you curate your house and try and make it impressive. And it's not like one is different, any worse or better than the other, but one is less represented than the other, and I know which one I prefer.
Yeah. Do you find like at the moment with the Brexit and Remain stuff going on, and like there's this feeling that the Gary Lineker thing is sort of like that he's being anti-working class by saying that he's doesn't want to have refugees being kept out of the country.
Yeah.
And so there's this idea now that working class means
reactionary,
mildly racist, reactionary, not empathising with people, not being supportive, and that's not my. And then if you're anti that, you're being anti-working class. But it's not my experience of my grandparents who grew up in Middlesbrough, and exactly it was all everyone helping each other, living in quite an unpleasant place as Wolverhampton is.
Yes.
And
good
making
luck
the
with
best
your
of it.
podcast in Wolverhampton. Yes, that's,
I think Middlesbrough's worse than Wolverhampton, though. To be fair,
we can fight about this afterwards.
But it's but empathy was the
the working classes die
unless
unless they stick together because they have to, because there's not that much outside support. And without being too kind of smoking of the marijuana or becoming paranoid conspiracy theory about this, like who does it benefit for the story to be now that the working classes are ignorant, that they are non-supportive, that they turn on against each other. You are dehumanizing the working classes when you start telling these kind of stories about the working classes. Yeah. And I think it's very noticeable because it's a trope that is repeated again and again through history. If you have a demonised underclass that is starting to get restless, which is what's been happening with the white underclass in this country, then they're either going to rebel upwards and have some kind of revolution against the people who've got the money and the power. So what you have to do is make a subclass to the underclass, which in this case is refugees and people of colour, and direct their anger downwards. That's just a simple direction of energy. Like that's 101 politics. That's 101 Machiavelli. That's 101 fascism. That's what you do. Yeah. You don't want people kicking up. You want them kicking down, and you have to create a subclass. And that is the narrative that is unfolding at the moment. But my husband's theory on Brexit is that it wasn't that popular, and people just voted for it because the word sounded like breakfast, and that's a word we love. And now, obviously, it's full Brexit now. I think continues this theme that is. We just liked that word. And I think also the Remain camps, I think it's about, so much of it's about words and stuff. Like remain is like you remain there. Remainders, like on remains, like it sounds like skeletons and stuff. Yeah. Whereas if it had been the stay campaign, stay is a beautiful word. When someone says stay, will you stay the night? Stay with me. That's
17 could have sung the...
Exactly. Shakespeare's sister could have been back. Like kind of you've immediately here in 1 minute we've already got a better campaign that was fought by Remain. This is already better.
And you can't make it moan. You can't put moan in there.
I know. I'm loving this whole thing of like kind of like the having had this cataclysmic thing happen, we're now shits for going, this is shit and this is going to be a terrible thing. Like you're a Ramona if you're not 100% behind this. Like why would I be behind? Why am I going to make your shit idea work? I just want to sit back and watch the whole thing fucking collapse. I'm going to do absolutely nothing. Your weird idea of turning Britain into a tea shop where we're going to all our exports are going to be jam and biscuits and tea. People don't drink tea anywhere else in the world. Have you been on holiday anywhere else in the world? They don't do tea.
And we don't grow tea in the UK.
Yes. And most people don't like jam. If you talk to younger people now, like in our day, what better treat was there than some jam?
Yeah,
90% of the good stuff that happened in our lives from our generation was jam. Yeah. You give jam to a 9-year-old now, and they will say to you, as my daughter did at a birthday party when I'd made jam tarts, but why would people eat jam when there's Nutella? As far as she's concerned, if you were going to make a jam-like thing with a jam-like consistency, why would you make it out of strawberries or black currants when you could make it out of chocolate instead? Yeah. And she has an enormously valid point.
Yeah. Yeah, Nutella's not made in the UK. I'm going to get Ali's going to ask a question now. This is my. He's from the 19th century, so I have no control over what he will say. I apologise. Hello, Caitlin. Aren't men much better than women, though? That's the thing. Oh, Ali, that's very rude. But he has a point. Anyway, isn't that the case that men are better than women?
Well, one of the great things about women is we do know how to condition our hair, which is something that Ali has clearly not done. The last time I saw... He has hair as dry as... Oh, God, what's her name on the Great British Bake Off? Who's the one on Great British Bake Off who's got really dry hair, that woman? Is she Anne? I've been Jane, yeah. I knew the women would know. Like, kind of any woman I know who's watching it's just going, just condition it. Just put a leave-in conditioner. It's so
well done, Ali. You've got them turning against each other. That is well done. Your work here is done. I believe women should be treated as if they're equal. That is what I believe. So that is... I'm very different than... Very different. Yeah. We haven't got too long with you, so I'll ask you a couple more emergency questions. Have you ever seen a ghost?
Yes.
Yes, I knew you would have done it.
When my granddad died, I shared the room with my 5 siblings. We had 2 bunk beds and a mattress on the floor. And on the night that he died, the cord from the light started swinging very slightly like this. And we all screamed, went, that must be Grandad. Not taking into consideration that it was the middle of January and all the windows were open and that a swinging light switch would be a common thing to see. It was absolutely, we believed that was a ghost. Still now, we believe the Grandad spirit was in that light cord.
Could be. That's the kind of thing he would do, I reckon.
I know.
If he came back.
He's a gentle ghost.
He was, nice. But you chose your name through numerology, right?
Yes,
so
that is
your
correct.
Real name was Catherine.
Yes.
And you decided that wasn't going to get you anywhere.
Yeah,
well, it's worked, doesn't it?
Well,
arguably.
This is the thing. I know. Maybe those Egyptians were onto something. Yeah, no, I just thought Catherine was quite a boring name, and so I read a Jilly Cooper book where there was a character called... The thing is, you should pronounce my name Caitlin, but when you choose a name when you're 13 from a book and you don't really go out much, you will pick a name and completely mispronounce it for the next 30 years of your life and make people feel really awkward when you say, it's Caitlin. It shouldn't be. I've got no reason to say to them, this is cool, you should call me Caitlin. Yeah. It is Caitlin. But yeah, no, I picked it out of the book and then I checked it against numerology. But I think I'm watching my daughters go through this same phase now. When you get into your teenage years, you really get into the supernatural. Like, I can remember the supernatural section of the library. It was like, because you're like, I know the grown-ups know stuff, and they're keeping it from me. And then you find the shelf of books about UFOs and the Pendle ghosts, and you're like, that's where the secret stuff was. I knew that the grown-ups knew about this stuff. Yeah. So I was obsessed with the supernatural, as my daughter is now. And the height of my insanity in believing in the supernatural was I became convinced I was psychic, and when the band Squeeze toured Wolverhampton and played at the Civic Hall in 1989, I was convinced that if I lay in bed long enough looking at a picture of lead singer Glenn Tilbrook, whom I believed would be the most psychically receptive, and I kept looking at a picture of his face and repeating my phone number over and over again, 01902 337 326, that he would, in his dressing room, go, I don't know why, but I feel like I've got to call this number, and then would call my number and go, do you want to be on the guest list for tonight? And then I would go, yes, that has worked really effectively. And as you may imagine, that did not happen. But I was genuinely convinced that he would ring. And
now you've given your number out on this podcast. He might listen to this and then he might ring you.
Finally. Yeah. It'd be like ghosts. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was very much... I mean, I still sort of am. I'm quite logical and rational and don't believe any of this stuff. But in my teenage years, I was obsessed with... That's why all the things I'm interested in, like Jesus, who I'm interested in in a non-religious way, and Nostradamus and Rasputin. I mean, they all have beards. That's the other thing. But they all. I loved that kind of supernatural element of all their lives. Obviously, Jesus was pretty magic, wasn't he? Came back. He was a ghost, wasn't he?
Well, I guess, superheroes weren't around so much at that point, so the fact that you're kind of like slightly magic men who are more accessible than Batman, kind of, that was what spoke to you. I like that.
I never understood why Jesus' disciples were so suspicious of him and didn't back him up all the time, right? Because they must have known he was the Son of God and they'd seen him do all the miracles and stuff. And then still Peter was going, no, I don't. Well, I don't know him. And Thomas going, I don't reckon it's you. Why don't you reckon it's me? You remember when I walked on water and I brought Lazarus back to life? Nah. You remember that I'm the Son of God? Yeah, no. If Thomas can't believe in Jesus, how the fuck am I meant to believe in Jesus?
I presumed it must be because all the disciples come from the Midlands, because they doubt everything. Like, you see anything amazing happening, you go, nah, I don't reckon. No, that's the default Midlands.
Would they follow him around, though? Anyway, we'll follow you around, but we don't.
But by being constantly sarcastic and dolorous, yes, absolutely. I don't really know that much about Jesus. Everything I know is entirely based on the score from Jesus Christ Superstar. So
well, that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. Really, he did some singing. What was it like being... why were you homeschooled? Was that a choice of you or your parents, or...?
Well, they were hippies, and they'd asked us if we wanted to leave school a couple of times, and we were sort of... Because we were hippie children, we were kind of going to school in sort of rainbow crocheted ponchos and gold Wellington boots, whilst everybody else was wearing neon pop socks and being into Duran Duran. So we were bullied quite a lot. And our parents asked us if we wanted to leave school, and we were like, that would be great. And there's two ways that you can homeschool. Like half the people who homeschool do it because they think that you'll get a better education at home. And if you just go for a walk with your parents, you will be through the woods, you'll be learning about geology and geography and nature and all this kind of stuff. And it would actually be a better way to educate children. That would be a better way to educate people. And then there's the second sort, which is my parents, who just really couldn't be bothered to get us up every morning and to find clean socks and pants. And so as a consequence, they did nothing at all. And we would wake up every day and we would watch classic MGM musicals whilst eating a huge amount of cheese. We invented the cheese lollipop, which is a fist-sized lump of cheese on a fork, which if you're bored enough, you can lick. You can lick cheese and it will gradually... Have you ever licked cheese for a very long time?
I haven't licked cheese for that long, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I find it too delicious to lick.
Well, if you had been as bored as us,
Yeah.
you will realise that it goes through a very odd journey. As you lick it, the more liquid elements of it get licked away, and you're left with little lumps of more solid cheese and salt, which you can then crunch on as individual delicious nuggets before going back and penetrating the rest of the more liquid cheese. And but that will be over 3 or 4 hours. You can't.
Of course.
That won't happen straight away.
You have to be committed to
Yes.
But it's amazing. I mean, I'll let you go very soon. But it's amazing that you went from that, and then you obviously had this Observer success, and then you were kind of straight onto you did Naked City,
in which I was appalling. Yes, I was the world's worst. I was given a TV show at the age of 18, and there's a reason why not many people say that sentence, and it's because it's a terrible idea to give an 18-year-old a TV show. I had nothing to say. What have you got to say when you're 18? I literally didn't know, and I would be going around the world interviewing all these pop stars, and I didn't have any clue who they were because at the point where I became a music journalist when I was 16, I had 12 CDs from the local library. I was blagging my way through the whole thing. So I went to interview Iggy Pop, had no idea who he was, and just talked to him about his hair for half an hour. But the thing is that because everybody else that interviews Iggy Pop is usually kind of a boy fan who's kind of like, oh my God, tell me all about the Stooges. Iggy was thrilled that I wasn't asking him about self-mutilation of the Stooges, and we talked about hair for half an hour.
Yeah.
And his secret then, which is the bigger thing now, is that he said, I always put the conditioner on first, then you shampoo.
Don't think that would work.
Wiggy Pop.
I just said because me and Stu interviewed Moon Unit Zappa in Canada in the late 90s, and I don't really know anything about Frank Zappa. I didn't even know he was dead, to be honest. So she was talking about, and I was going, your dad sounds horrible, but she really liked it because obviously everyone else,
it's like,
everyone else is just like and looking back at it, I now realise she quite fancied me. It's terrible when you go back and look at it.
Oh.
She came up to me on the last day, said, write this down. I said, and it was her phone number. And I said, and I was too stupid to understand
what did
that
you
was.
Think? What?
I don't know. She was lovely as well.
What would you think she was giving you a phone number for?
Just because I would just assume she couldn't be interested in me, so that she was just being nice.
Surely you'd been.
But now I've watched the
human
interview,
ritual.
she definitely fancied me.
Really? What,
Yeah.
is she all like this?
Yeah, because she's all like, I'm laughing at how funny I am and cheeky I'm being. It's pretty much the story of my life. I'd like to be able to go back and have another crack, really. Not just at Moon Unit Zappa, but that would be a start. Oh, Moon Unit, that'd be good, wouldn't it? Going, oh, when you're having sex with her, oh, Moon Unit. Oh. She wouldn't have liked that.
But then when you were younger, you don't realise. I had a similar thing with Jeff Buckley. I'd interviewed Jeff Buckley a couple of times. I got on enormously well with him. He was just really funny, kind of, you drowned saint-like man now. He was just incredibly funny and really silly. And then one night he just rang me and said, I'm in town, I'm at my hotel, do you want to come over? And I just put on a toweling robe and I was watching the Crystal Maze. And I was just and I'd skinned up a joint and I was halfway through it and I was like, there'll be plenty of time to fuck Jeff Buckley, that's fine. And then he drowned in the Mississippi, but a month later. It was just like, no. I mean, then the moral of that story is always go and have sex with Jeff Buckley.
Because if you'd had sex with him, he probably wouldn't have drowned. Because his future is sliding doors, isn't it? That's
exactly
the sliding.
Yes,
Catlin's
sliding doors. Yeah, he would have slid through my doors. He would have drowned in another way entirely.
If I got off with Moon Unit Zappa, the best thing about it would have been it would really have annoyed Stu. would have been. Never mind. Look, I know you've got something else to do, so thank you very much for coming in. Please support what is it, Raised by Wolves. If you go on Kickstarter and search for Raised by Wolves, and just put a $5 in. If it doesn't take that many people to get, it takes quite a lot, doesn't it? To get 350,000.
It's an extraordinary amount of money, but if you like it, then do it. If you don't, then that's absolutely fine. I'm starting to go off it, to be honest. So, but I mean, if you do want some more, we will make some more. Everyone's there and ready to go. So, and you get great rewards. You get cameos on the show. You know, you can have a personalised message from the cast that you can play at a wedding or a birthday party. Like kind of, we've tried to come up with genuinely good stuff.
It's a really excellent show. It was really lovely to watch some more of it today because it was it's really the relationships between all the characters are great. So I hope you do get to do some more.
Thank you.
If
David.
not, I look forward to the Bill Murray extravaganza.
Millennium, it's happening.
And I'm sure there'll be much more to come anyway. But ladies and gentlemen, give a massive round of applause to Caitlin Moran. How'd you like them sky potatoes?